name is Arunas Liskauskas, and I am a management biologist with the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources, Upper Great Lakes Management Unit Office, Lake Huron office in Owen Sound. And I oversee the management and planning of nearshore aquatic resources in Lake Huron, including Georgian Bay and the North Channel. Invasive species have been a prominent feature of the Great Lakes, and they've had an important role in restructuring fish communities, in particular predators and prey. For instance, the sea lamprey has had a dramatic impact on species like lake trout, which were the keystone predator in Lake Huron and the Upper Great Lakes at one time. The sea lamprey basically created a situation where lake trout were reduced to very low lake levels. Lamprey were introduced approximately at the same time as alewife and rainbow smelt, other non-native species. These species were native to the Atlantic coast, made their way up into the Upper Great Lakes as a result of the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway and the Welland Canal. And these species dominated the fish community up until recently in Lake Huron. Once they become introduced, there's very little that can be done to extirpate them. We do have sea lamprey control. It's a multi-million-dollar annual investment to maintain sea lamprey abundance at a level that does not detract from basically economic and recreational opportunities. So that's a multi-million-dollar annual investment to keep the levels of sea lamprey low. These other species there's really no practical way of keeping their abundance low, and it would be cost prohibitive to try to maintain their abundances at low levels. So the key here is not to allow them to be introduced in the first place. Once they're established, they're here for the long term. We have had success. A prime example would be the stocking of Chinook salmon to reduce the overabundant populations of alewife that developed in the late 1960s. Chinook salmon were very effective in reducing the abundance of alewife, and an offshoot of that was the development of a very important and popular recreational fishery for Chinook salmon. This resulted in economic stimulation for many communities throughout Lake Huron, targeting this species of fish. Recreational anglers were starting to turn their attention to the Great Lakes once again. At that time, in the 70s and 80s, the Great Lakes were looked upon as not providing any recreational benefits. So that's an example of a situation where we were able to control the abundance of alewife through stocking of Chinook salmon. We realize now with the ecological changes that have occurred recently that it's not necessarily a sustainable situation. The ecosystem has changed, has resulted in the decline of Chinook salmon and alewife populations, and that's just the nature of exotic species. It's unpredictable. Well, we probably see the most dramatic responses to climate change in species like northern pike that occupy shallow warm water areas and depend on wetland habitats for spawning needs. When climate change, the prediction is that it will affect lake levels in the long term, lowering lake levels, and that has the effect of reducing the amount of spawning habitat available for northern pike, in particular wetlands. And in a lot of cases, there aren't alternative habitats for these species to spawn in. And we've seen with these low lake levels, persistent low lake levels in Lake Huron, we've seen a decline in the abundance of northern pike, probably as a result of their inability to access appropriate spawning habitats. Right now, in terms of population dynamics and changes on an ecosystem-wide level, Lake Huron is the place to be. Lake Superior has some stability. It's retained its native species through lake trout and cisco and whitefish. Lake Huron is showing very dramatic changes, and it's a lake that people want to work on. People are realizing that these large ecosystems can change in a very short period of time, and that there are a lot of questions and very few answers because these changes stem from the lower trophic levels, lower food web, all the way up to the higher trophic levels and the predator species, apex species. So there's a lot of work to be done on Lake Huron to understand the significance of these major ecological changes.